So today we're reading another tall tale, and this particular book was written fairly recently, and it was written to honor the people who were the first responders during what was the catastrophe called 9/11, when some airplanes were flown into the Twin Towers in New York City. What happened was first responders were the people like the fire department, the firefighters, the ambulance drivers, and so on that rushed to the emergency when the towers started to fall. And then some of them actually were killed in the process of trying to help others. So someone wrote a book about that isn't necessarily about that event, but it talks about the brave people that come to the rescue. It's called New York's Bravest. And while it was written to honor people, it actually has it's a tall tale. So it exaggerates what we would normally expect of someone who's brave and a brave firefighter. So if we look at his clothing, we'll note that it's probably from a different time, not the present day. This isn't the typical uniform you see for a firefighter today. And I'm going to quickly show you what they used for a fire truck. It was not the type of fire truck that we use today. Okay, and here's a newspaper boy who would stand on the street and call people to come and get newspapers. And so we don't see those today, but they were there a while ago, and so they were included in this particular story. All right, so here we go. Fire, fire, turn out, turn out! The fire bell jangled. Come on, boys, said Mose. Mose was the most famous firefighter in New York City. Here, if you look at the buildings and so on that are there, they look a little bit different than the type of buildings we see today, and especially the clothing looks very different. And you'll notice the streets are cobblestone. They're not paved with blacktop. This is Mose. "8 feet tall and hands as big as Virginia hands. His arms were so strong he could swim the Hudson River in 2 strokes." Now, we know that most people are not 8 feet tall. I don't know of anybody that's 8 feet tall right now. And his hands were as big as a ham, and a ham is a big piece of meat that people eat like at Easter time or Thanksgiving. So they're saying his hands were that big. And he was strong enough to swim across a river in 2 strokes. Nobody I know can do that. So those are all what we call exaggerations. They are much bigger than real life. Now Mose and his boys rolled out the pumper and headed for the smoke billowing in the sky. So here's Mose. I want you to see Mose is way at the front. He's much taller than all the other firefighters. He's at the front leading them to where the fire is. And this is their firefighting vehicle. That's not like the trucks that we expect to see today. They ran past horse stables and wooden shanties, which means rundown houses. They ran past newsboys crying, "Papers, 1 penny." They ran past oystermen, roosters, and ragmen. Again, not much that we see today. Suddenly, they came to a halt. A horse-drawn trolley, you heard me say horse-drawn, so that means it was being pulled by a horse, was stuck on the tracks, blocking their way. "I'll take care of it, boys," said Mose. He lifted the crowded car into the air. Then he set it down gently and raced on. So here's Mose picking up that trolley. See all those people in there. So he's lifting up that whole trolley filled with people. Just like we would pick up a cardboard box. When Mose got to the burning tenement, which means apartment building, a woman rushed forward. "Help!" she screamed. "My baby's in there!" Mose climbed a ladder to the 3rd floor. He hacked the wood with his axe and wedged his body inside. Moments later, he appeared, coughing and covered with soot, which is the black stuff that you get after you burn something. He's alone, the mother cried. Where's my baby? So here's Mose chopping his way into the third floor. And down here is the woman, the mother who's crying, asking about her baby. Not alone. As Mose started down the ladder, it caught fire. But Mose leapt through the air and landed on his feet. Then he reached in his hat and pulled out a baby. Thank you, the mother cried. Just doing my duty, said Mose. So here's Mose, and there's the baby in his hat. And see, the ladder caught on fire because it was made out of wood. But he jumped off just in time. The mother baked Mose all the pies he could eat. To show their thanks, folks always gave Mose food and drink. Barrels of cider and coffee, bushels of oysters and potatoes, mountains of beans and eggs. Again, here we've got some exaggeration because look at that big plate of food he's going to eat. That's a lot of food. Ragmen gave him their least ragged clothes. Shoeshine boys shined his boots. Everyone knew if they ever needed help, they could count on Mose. For years and years, Mose ran uptown and downtown, east and west, putting out fires in tenements, mansions, factories, and stores. Here he is, resting, and there's somebody shining his boots. And here's a man giving him some clothes. And nobody paid him money. They just gave him things that he might need. So he's resting in this picture, but it sounds like he was often running around trying to help people. One night, and I was mentioning that the term one night usually means there's something important that's going to happen. One night, the fire bell rang. Fire! Fire! An eerie glow lit up the sky. Mose and his boys pulled out the pumper and raced to the piers. A fire in a hotel near the Hudson River was roaring out of control. Now, you know, a hotel usually has a lot of people in it, people coming to visit. And so the worry was there were a lot of people in there, and it was going to be hard to save all of them. All night, Mose ran in and out of the building, rescuing bankers and bakers and shoemakers and dressmakers and preachers and politicians. The hotel burned to ashes, but all the people inside were saved. Here's Mose running out of the fire with 4 people on his shoulders. Again, that's something of an exaggeration. I don't think people generally can bring 4 people at once. As the sun came up, Moses' boys picked up to leave. Wait a minute, one said. Where's Mose? The firefighters looked around. They all stared at the burned-out hotel, and they grew silent. I know, one said. He must have jumped in the river. Yeah, that's it, said another. He must have swum to New Jersey. Yeah, I bet he's having a big plate of beans and eggs right now. Yeah, beans and eggs. We'll see him tomorrow, yeah. But no one ever saw Mose again. It wasn't long before the rumors started. And a rumor is a story, sort of a made-up story that somebody tells about somebody else. It's usually not true, but it's something that people spread to other people and act and talk like it's true. It wasn't long before the rumors started. Did you hear? Mose is driving a mule team in the Dakotas. So the Dakotas is a state, or the 2 states way far away from New York. Mose is mining gold in California. Mose is working in Washington for President Lincoln. So they're all trying to explain where he went. But we kind of know where he went. And the other interesting thing about this book is it mentions President Lincoln. So the story takes place during the time of Abraham Lincoln, right? For a long time, folks guessed on Moses' whereabouts. Then one night, at the firehouse, over a game of checkers, an old-timer put the matter to rest. You know what? He said, Mose ain't any of them places. Truth is, Mose is right here. He's marching with us in our parade. He's kicking up his heels at our fancy dances. He's skating by moonlight on the ice pond in the park. And whenever we climb our ladders toward a blazing sky, he climbs with us. Whenever we save folks, he saves them too. You see, that firefighter, he'll never leave us. He's the very spirit of New York City. So, the firefighters didn't want to recognize that Mose probably didn't make it out of that hotel. So they were trying to explain it. But finally, the older firefighter said, you know what? He's not coming back. But his spirit lives on in all the good that we do as firefighters. So here are all the firefighters, and there's Mose. See how tall he is? But in this picture, he's actually just a memory that they're thinking of. And here is a firefighter saving a little child, just like Mose did. So that's our tall tale. It's a very sweet story to help us honor people that tried to help and save other people. But it was filled with some exaggerations, how big his hands were, and how tall he was, and how strong he was. These are all parts of a tall tale. So this might be based on a real person, but after people started to tell the story about that real person, they made it bigger and bigger, and everything they said about that real person, they made that bigger and bigger. And that's how we have a tall tale. All right, that's all for now. You know, if you want to talk to someone at home about the story, that would be great. All right, we'll read another tall tale tomorrow.